Hello and welcome to ASDM Tech Forum. So today, this video, as you can see on my screen, right, firewall for home and small offices. I'm going to show you a very inexpensive way to secure your home and office network, right? This may not be like very next generation or cutting edge thing, but you can get started on security. You can secure your home and office perimeter with minimum amount of technical knowledge and minimum capital expenditures, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to learn about Cisco ASA 5505 hardware and how to use it, how to deploy it in your home without not being a security administrator, right? How you can keep things simple, still get all the security benefit. That's what we are going to discuss. What it takes, I mean, you must be wondering like, okay, so I have to purchase this hardware. These are like hardware from Cisco, maybe very expensive and all. So this hardware is end of life now, and it is available on eBay and any other venues for very cheap prices, right? So let's first understand what Cisco ASA can provide you in home and small office kind of environment. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. Agenda. Quickly get started with inexpensive or used firewall. Then where you can purchase these. Once you purchase these, how you can get started. So first you have to initialize the firewall. I'm going to show you how to initialize the firewall and set with the minimal configuration. Then obviously you are not a security administrator, so you do not want to deal with command line interface and all. Cisco ASA does present a very nice web UI kind of interface where using that you can manage your firewall, you can monitor your firewall and everything. So that is called ASDM. I'll show you how to install ASDM and how to get access to that. Then after this, we will stop here in today's video. In next video, what we will do, I'll show you what minimum line of configuration is required for home use kind of environment where ASA can do dynamic routing. That means it can get the IP address from your modem/router and work as a default gateway, right? Finally, if you are an advanced administrator, you can connect your ASA to your cloud resources using IPsec tunnel. So that's more advanced use case. So let me show you. So this is what we are going to do. Install, initialize ASA. So let me show you where you can buy ASA, right? So this is the link for ASA product documentation, end of life right now. I'm going to post this link in description so you can follow along. Where you can buy. If you today go to eBay and just type ASA 5505, you will see these are available as low as $20, right? But just make sure that you are getting power cord as well, right? Because these things require a different kind of power cable, obviously AC power, but a little bit heavy adapter. So make sure that when you are buying your ASA, you buy your power adapter as well. You can get very good deal here, right? Less than $50, you will be all set with the hardware. Once you have the hardware, then in this video, I'm going to show you how to initialize that. All right. So for that, let me play a video here and you can follow along. I'm going to just speed up this video a little bit. Okay. So connect your firewall with a console cable and connect that console cable to your Mac or Windows laptop. And you can use any kind of like telnet program to SSH or serial connect to that. Okay, so choose serial connection, and as you can see, my Cisco ASA is powered on and I am already logged in to the console. By default, there is no enable password. So when you purchase this, it may be a case that there are multiple line of configurations are there because it was used somewhere in some offices or enterprise and they have the leftover config here, which will make no sense to you or make no use to you, right? So what you can do, you can simply write erase, just type write erase and get rid of that configuration. Okay. All the configurations For folks who are familiar with Cisco command line, they know that all the right erase is to delete the configuration, and if you want to save the configuration, you can do copy source config to the destination, and in this case, that is the flash. So what I'm doing here, I'm just copying the running config to the flash, because these are the config we are going to use in when we do the dynamic routing. These are not junk config. So I'm just storing it in the flash so that I can later on I can restore. As you can see, I did copy run flash and file name. Okay. So my config is backed up. Now I want to get rid of this configuration. Just say right erase and so there is no startup config now once you do a right erase. Now reload. So the ASA will go ahead and reboot itself, and it will try to find out the configuration file in named as startup config, but that since that is not there, it will initialize with the basic config or minimal config, which will where it is going to ask you about some inputs. Okay. So let me skip that loading part. It's just booting from the software, whatever software it has. Okay. Once boot is complete, as you can see, we're still doing some power on self test in hardware test. Okay. So now you can see pre-configure firewall now through interactive prompt. Say yes. So that means you do not know to need to know this all the security concept. Okay, with minimum configuration you can get started. Keep the firewall mode as routed. Let me speed it up a little bit. Use current password, enable password. You can keep it blank. Allow time. So it is asking you to set the time, date and time. I'm going to select the date, set the date and time manually. If you have NTP in your environment, you can always sync up with the NTP later on. But for interactive config, we will set the date and time manually. Okay, time is UTC time because our clock is set to UTC. So you can convert your local time zone to UTC time. Set the management IP address. Okay, the IP address which you will use to initially to connect to ASA. So I'm using 172.16, just a random or private IP address, because that's the IP address I'm going to configure on my laptop and connect to ASA on Ethernet interface. Okay, it is asking you to give the domain name now, IP address of host running device manager, leave it blank. Okay, use this configuration and save to flash. Say yes. So as you can see that we have just did very minimal thing, host name, date, time, and IP address. That's it. Okay. The IP address what you created, it belongs to VLAN 1 and security context is management. Management security context level is set to 0. Okay. That means it's an open interface. You can access it without any access list and other things. Okay. So this is the minimum configuration we wanted. And now our ASA has got an IP address which we can use to connect. Okay. Now also allow HTTP connection because we want to initialize our ASDM or the GUI to control the ASA. Say no. As you can see, HTTP, both the subnets and management. Okay. Because right now there is no inside and outside. So you can just not worry about that. You can say HTTP 000. That means allow everything on management VLAN or management interface. Okay. Now we have to enable HTTP server so that we can access the GUI. HTTP server enable. Okay. By default, it listens to TCP port 443, which is good. We do not want any customization. So we can say HTTPS and the IP address. Okay. Just verify the IP interface and few other things. As you can see, there is no layer 3 interface other than VLAN 1 where we have the IP address. Okay, I'm also going to check on VLANs. So ASA 5500 gives you capability of only two VLAN by default. VLAN 1 and one additional VLAN you can use. So for our initial config, we are just going to use one VLAN, VLAN 1. Okay, now I'm thinking like which port to connect. You can choose any port ranging from 01 to 07, and two of the ports are PoE. If you look through the data sheet, 06 and 07, they are PoE enabled port. Other than that, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, whatever port you can connect your laptop, what you have to do, you have to configure the same subnet IP address on your laptop. Like here for ASA, we have 172.16.0.2. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to configure static IP address on my laptop 172.16.0.1 and connect them back to back using any of the port from 01 to 07. Okay. Also, I have to create a default route, of course. So I'm going to say IP route default and point the next hop to my laptop address. That's really not needed. They both are in same subnet, but it's a best practice. Okay. So say route management. Since this is a firewall, you have to always specify the context. So I'm going to say route, and this route should be applicable in management context 000. That means allow all. And next hop is my laptop here. Okay. So at this point of time, my laptop, since security context for management is 0, and my laptop is sitting in the same subnet, the ASA and laptop should have connectivity. That means if you initiate a ping from any of the side, you should be able to get ping response. So this is how we initialize our ASA. Now we are moving on to the next step. That means how to access the GUI. For GUI, we have done the basic preparation. That means we have enabled the HTTP server. And now, as you can see, if I use that IP address on my browser, I'm going to see a response coming back, right? So this is obviously security related certificate. Say this is unsafe, and you are presented with ASDM. Okay, ASDM is setting within the flash itself, right? So now here you have two options: install ASDM launcher and install Java WebStart. I would like to do ASDM launcher because it will give me a nice desktop app. Okay, put the username and password. Unfortunately, we didn't define any username and password, right? So obviously you need to define a username and password in console. So let's go back and configure that piece of information on ASA. A very basic thing: IP address, default route, HTTP server enable, and username password. Since I do not have here it is saying, okay, let's go ahead and say username, whatever username you want, as the tech here, password, and password you can type in clear text as well. But the most important thing is this user who you are planning to log into ASDM should have privilege of 15, privilege level 15. This is kind of like super admin privilege in Cisco sense. Okay, and password has certain length and complexity requirement. Not complexity requirement, it's a length requirement mostly. So for demo purposes, I'm using a very simple password, but you can always complicate it or make it more secure. All right. Here is the catch. You can see I'm still, so this is the as you try to log in, and you will presented with this DM launcher. This is the Mac DMZ for that application. So install this app Obviously my laptop is complaining that this is downloaded from security, it is not very secure. So what you have to do, you have to go to Mac system preferences and allow this. That means you are explicitly saying that yes, I trust this, this is not a malware or virus, so please go ahead and open this. So that is something you have to do at the desktop or laptop level. Once you once you give permission to the app, it will prompt you the username and password. I'm saying open anyways. In Mac, security and privacy, system preferences, security and privacy, and then allow ASDM, IDM. Okay. Now you can see my ASDM IDM launcher is here available. That means it is ready to give me a nice GUI interface to manage my firewall and define all the rules and everything. Put the IP address here, 172. As you can see, there is a fat finger, 172.16.0.2. I put a comma, which is wrong. So let me, because this is the IP address available today, right? Use username, password. Yes. That's Java security prompted. I just want to say yes. So now my ASDM is getting initialized. Here I can see everything about my firewall. How many interfaces it has, how it is configured today, what software version it is running, and all those things. Everything you can configure and manage using that ASDM UI. That is a beauty of this inexpensive firewall. It still give you all kind of security and ease to get started without being a security administrator. Okay. So in next video, what I'm going to do, I'm going to uh, show you how to work with ASDM and how to configure your ASA with dynamic routing so that you can have a plug and play kind of environment in your home office, and you connect the internet coming from your ISP, connect that cable to ASA and start using uh, internet. Okay, so stay tuned for the next video. And we will make it fun. Thank you.